Hello everyone, I'm Vampy and today I'm going to talk to you about getting started with your new electric eel wheel 6. This video is aimed at complete beginners. If you've never spun before, if you've never used an eSpinner before, then this is for you. If you're a bit more experienced, there's a shorter video available on this channel called the Quick Start Guide, and that video and this user manual that come in the package should be enough for an experienced spinner to get going right away. If you have no idea what you're doing, this is where you want to start. Start off with, what is an eSpinner? What does it do? Well, the only purpose of this spinner is to insert twist into fibre to make it into yarn, and then wind on and store that yarn so you can carry on making more. With a spindle, you get to insert the twist, but you have to stop to wind it on, so it's a little bit slower. This winds on as you go, like with a flywheel. When you've opened your package, you will have all these things, plus lots and lots of these things. You have several bags of bobbins, so I will show you how to put that together first so we can get it out of the way. Each bobbin is made up of two ends, one flat end, one end with a ridge, a middle shaft and two little bearings. These just help it turn more smoothly. You can see I've already pushed one into that hole there. I'm going to put one into the hole on the other side, push it into place, then this just screws together. It makes the bobbins nice and easy to transport if you want your eSpinner to be nice and portable. Apparently I'm incredibly right-handed. There we go. And that's all you have to do to put a bobbin together. So I will put that to one side and move on to the main machine. This part here is called the flyer. This bobbin will go on it while you are spinning, and the yarn will go through there, through these little guide hooks on the side, and they will let the yarn wind on to the bobbin. Depending on the position of the hook is where the yarn will wind on here. This is the main body of the spinner. You look underneath, it's got the motor and the control board and connections for all the switches. This is what does all the work. This here is just a base. If you've got a battery, you want to run it from battery, then your battery can sit in here. Even if you're not using a battery, I would recommend you put this on there because it's got these really nice little non-slip feet, so it's fairly secure on the table. So to attach this to this, have this bit here with the opening towards the back. On this part you have the pulley towards the front, and you slide this over the little screws in each corner and then pull it towards you until it clicks into place. And that's the body of the spinner assembled with the battery case. And the flyer, put this on, you need a couple of extra bits out of this bag here. You will need another one of these bearings and a drive band. And while you're here, you might as well get out one of these metal hooks and just pop that onto the body there. There's a couple of magnets on the left hand side of the centre here, and that's where your hook goes so you don't lose it. So if you look at your flyer here on the front, the little groove here, that is where this drive band wants to sit. It might pop out as I'm putting it on, but once I've got it in place, that's where it's going to be. On the back end of the flyer, we've got an empty little bit of rod. Take this spare bearing, we'll put that on there, and that will fit into the cradle at the back. Before I put it on though, I just want to show you one more thing. The cradle at the back here, it's got a little magnet to hold that bearing in place. So when you're taking this on and off to change bobbins, you don't want to lose this. Just pop it there and it will be held in place. So for now, I'm putting it together. I'll put the bearing there, line this up so that bearing goes into that cradle, this bearing goes into this cradle, the drive band is in its correct position. I'll turn it round and I will slip the drive band over the pulley. And this is pretty much ready to go now. The only thing we need is power. You'll have a power brick in the package along with a 2-pin plug, one end that will go to your mains plug on the other end. So you plug that in, plug a 2-pin bit thing into your brick, and out of here is this jack. This goes in the rightmost socket on the back. It's labelled power, so you shouldn't have any trouble finding it. You pop that in there, and that little light flashes so you know you've got power. Now I'll go through all the other controls. Middle one here is labelled switch. I haven't got it here with me, but I will be getting it out to show you in a future video. This is for the foot switch. It just gives you one more option other than the hand controls to stop and start your eSpinner. Moving round. This here is your tension adjuster. How this whole thing works is, as your yarn is here where my finger is, spinning and spinning and spinning, this bobbin will rotate and the fly will rotate. They will, driven by the drive band, rotate at the same speed. That doesn't do anything to let the yarn wind on. To let the yarn wind on, they need to be rotating at different speeds. And to do this with this sort of device would be break the bobbin. So it just moves slightly slower than the flyer, letting the yarn wind on. This band is your brake band. I forgot to put that on before I assembled this, so I'll just pop that out. The brake band goes over this ridged end of the bobbin. Not far too much tension on that. There we go, and then that slots back in there, as I said before. You see the brake band attaches to this dial here, so I can tighten it and loosen it. That will change how hard this pulls against my hands. Generally you don't want it to be pulling at all hard, you just want it to wind on when you let it, but a big fat chunky yarn will need more pull than a really light lace weight yarn. So I'll turn that down to some sort of level where the string isn't at all stretched and it's got quite a bit of give when I touch it with my finger. I can always play with that later. The next control here is this one that's labelled Z and S. That is talking about the direction of spin. So the fly can either turn that way, which is clockwise, which spinners will call Z, or it can turn anti-clockwise, which spinners call S. I will show you how you can remember that in a second. I might as well do it now. In your little bag, you have a card here. You can see that. That shows you that a yarn that's twisted, so the angle of twist is that way, is Z, because it's the same as the middle bar and the letter Z, that way. And if you want to know if that's clockwise or anti-clockwise, imagine you're drawing the letter in the air. Z, you'll start there, go like that. So that movement there, draw the Z, that is clockwise, which is the direction that we're spinning. The opposite with S. The middle bar of the S leans that way. S is drawn like that. You start to draw it in the air. Top of the S, anti-clockwise. Doesn't really matter too much, although our tradition tends to be to spin your singles Z and then go back and ply them together S. If you're a crocheter, you might want to do it the other way around, because crochet tends to remove twist from S-plied yarns. You might want to be adding it for stronger work. So as long as you remember which one you did which way, or you can use your little card to check on your singles if you can't remember and ply the other way, it doesn't matter. As well as being a direction switch, this is also another way, apart from the foot pedal, to turn your machine on and off. If it's going happily Z and you want to turn it off, press it, that will turn it off. I'll show you again with it powered up in a second. And vice versa, if it's going S and you want to turn it off, flip it the other way. This here is your speed dial. It's labelled from 1 to 6. 0 is down here below the 1. It's not actually labelled, but it's as far as it can go left. And that, as you'll see, will get it going. And because that's set to Z, that's going in the Z, the clockwise direction. And I'm not going to turn that right up when I'm holding it in midair because that would be a bit weird. And that's pretty much all there is to it. It's got your pulley here, which is connected by the dry band to the flyer. That's what drives the whole thing. The motor turns the pulley and the pulley turns the flyer. Over here, as you put it in place, is your Orifice hook. That will go in here to help you thread it when you've got some yarn in. For the time being, without yarn, I will go over the controls again to show you your options for turning it on and off. Your first one, very simple. Turn it on with the speed dial, turn it off with the speed dial. You can also turn it on with the speed dial, turn it off with that switch. Now, if you want to carry on spinning the same project at the same speed, flip that switch and it'll turn back on. The foot pedal works in exactly the same way as this. Click it once, turn it off, click it again, turn it back on. Again, turn it on, turn it off. Now, if I've been spinning Z and I want to spin S, well, I've switched it to S and it's not doing anything because it's a multi-purpose switch. To get it to spin S now, I have to turn the speed dial down to 0. And I turn that to face the camera. You can see this is now going to start spinning S anti-clockwise. And there you go. And it works the same for turning it off as before. Turn it off through the speed dial and turn it off with that button. I am going to go dig my foot pedal out. I think it's just in the drawer down here, and I can show you that. Hi, I'm back with my foot pedal. It's got a really nice click. It's lovely to use. And you plug it in the back here where it says switch. And now it works exactly the same to turn it on and off. So I can start it with the speed dial, make sure the cable's out of the way. And that will turn it off, turn it on again. So not only you use that as a foot switch on the floor if your hands are busy, if you're spinning sitting down nice and laid back and you can't reach the spinner, you can bring the foot switch up next to you and use it with your hand. So we've only seen it go at about speed of number 2 or so. I'll turn it up, you can see just how fast it gets. So that's up to about 1800 RPM, which is fast enough for all but the very fastest spinners on the very finest yarns. Okay, almost done with going over the parts of this eSpinner. Just a few more things left to mention. First is the yarn guides here. You see they slide nice and smoothly, but they don't get pulled out of place easily. Because if you look at them closely, got a little O-ring that adds just a bit of friction to the top and bottom. So they're very easy to move with one hand, but they're not going to move out of place when you don't want them to. The point of the yarn guides is, as the name suggests, to guide the yarn onto the bobbin where you want it to be. So your yarn will come in the orifice, come out to this guide. This guide always stays here at the bottom. It guides the yarn past the edge of the bobbin and goes past there onto this guide. So you wind a little bit there, spin a bit more, wind on there, and you get a nice evenly wound bobbin, just moving the guide a little bit every time you stop. Next extra bit we have is this. This is the Orifice Reducer. It just slots in the front there. All it does is reduce the size of this orifice. At the moment it's quite large, it's about the same size as my little finger. It's perfect for spinning really thick yarn, but when you want to spin finer yarn, you'll notice the yarn moves in a circular path around the outside of the orifice, which when you're spinning can be a little bit annoying. You'll still see the movement at your fingers, so this just makes it take a smaller path, so the movement's slightly lower. Also in this bag we've just got a few extra little bits. Tip it all out. A lot of these are spares. We have a spare Orifice Hook. We've already got one there, so just put that away. Got some spare little rings for your yarn guides. You've got spare replacement bearings that work in the back bearing and also in the bobbin. They take the same size bearing. There'll be a spare drive band in there and a spring. You'll notice that the one on your machine is quite hard to pull, whereas this one stretches incredibly easily. You will want to switch that out if you're spinning very light, fine yarn. We'll go over that in a bit more detail and break bands in general in a later video. For now, just leave it with the one it came with. And this is a little Allen key. I believe it is for replacing this front pulley. Yeah, but again, just put that away, you won't need that. This here is an added tensioning device you may or may not want to use. If you look at the back of your flyer, there's a little hole in the flyer down there that's threaded. So that goes in and it just adds some tension, pushes the whole lot together. And that's really all there is to it with all the different parts and how they work. If you've forgotten anything that I've said, everything is available here in the manual. It goes over everything that I've done in slightly less detail, but it should be a good reminder of everything I've gone over.